And welcome, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order Tuesday, November 12th, and our budget meeting. And we'll ask everyone to make sure their cell phones are off or on mute. And we welcome our staff that are here this evening to help us with this budget, and welcome those that are participating from home. Item number 2, please. The amendments to the agenda is distributed by and approved by council, please.
That South Huron Council approves the agenda as presented.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor McLeod-Haggett, seconded by Councillor Vaughan. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 6. Pecuniary disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures at this time? Okay, not seeing any. Moving on to item number 4, and we'll turn it over to our staff. We begin, I believe, at page 60.
There is a budget impacts priorities that Aaron will read through first, as well as a follow-up memo from the October 28th budget meeting.
Through you, Mayor Finch. If you look at the budget impacts and priorities for the levy funded services that was attached, I've highlighted in green the 2 changes that are here from the last meeting. We received the draft budget from ABCA, so that is included. And this is just the increase from prior year for the impact on the levy. And then you'll also see that we received the OMPF allocation, and because that's showing as a negative, so that was also an increase, so additional revenues that we received. And that at the bottom there then shows you the new tax rate increase, which would be 1.38% rural and 3.33% urban, based on that additional information that was received. Next to the memo. So the memo was to bring back items as requested, and again, some additional information that was received subsequent. So first was to provide council with some information on the OPP billing, and then some changes to the 10-year capital forecast, an update to the fire capital reserve balance, the OMPF funding again, and then a correction for the fire services user fees and charges. So for the OPP agreement, we did reach out. We weren't able to receive any additional information other than a confirmation that next year's budget would see the 2.75% increase that was included in a memo that we received in the summer, but they couldn't provide any direction on anything else that would be in there. So based on that information, I included a summary in here to show the changes in the OPP contract over the last 6 years, as well as to show a summary of the stabilization reserve and the closing balance on that, which has not changed since December 2018, $303,839. So this reserve provides funding to minimize the impact of contract renewal costs, and it's established based on any previous year credit. And it's recommended to be a minimum level of funding of 1% of the general levy. So based on the 2024 general levy, 1% would be $109,712. So then we just did an assumption there based on if we were to take 100,000 from the reserve to put against the increase, and it just shows you that your increase for rural instead of 1.38% would be 0.7%, and for urban instead of 3.33% would be 2.08%. Next, there's a few changes to the 10-year capital forecast. So again, this doesn't impact the 2025 budget. This is just if you're looking through at the 10-year forecast. For SCADA upgrades, the $125,000 a year should be included in all 10 years of the forecast, not just the 2026 through 2031 that it shows in the budget. And for the sidewalk replacement, that was deferred from the 2025 budget, but it should be included in all 10 years of the forecast. Next, for the fire capital reserve, if you can just please note the $315,000 transfer from the working capital reserve to the fire capital replacement reserve that was approved in the 2024 budget is not properly reflected in that schedule. So there should be that additional amount put in there that would put the fire capital reserve replacement cost at $1,563,685.59 is what that balance should be showing. I already went over the OMPF funding that we received, so that did increase by $261,200 or $54 per household as compared to 2024. And then finally, there was a discussion last week with regards to the fire services user fee, sorry, not last week, at the last meeting for the fire services user fees and charges. And it was noted in the operations budget review that the 2024 actual was significantly high compared to the 2025 budget. So we reviewed this account and did notice that there was an amount there in error that should have been on a different line. Having corrected that, the 2024 actual revenue to date is $67,482.74. And this is still higher than what we're recommending the 2025 budget allocation be, but that's because we do it based on the 3-year average. And this can be reviewed again in 2026 if it's deemed that this still wasn't an accurate projection.
Any questions for Aaron? Not seeing any. Thanks, Aaron. Go ahead.
Then we'll start on page 60, transportation services.
Okay, any questions? Counselor Vaughn, do you have a question? No? Can you turn your mic on, please? Yeah, try that again.
Yes, I'm just wondering if if I can ask a couple of questions on that summary page before we move on.
Yeah, go ahead, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so now we have got the OCIF, we've got the OMPF. So have we heard about the gas tax?
Through you, Mayor Finch, to my knowledge, no, we have not been confirmed what the amount will be for that for 2025.
Okay, so that, okay. And the Upper Thames Conservation Authority, we haven't included that as yet either? Just the ABCA?
Through you, Mayor, that has subsequently, even since this been received, and that would be an additional increase of $855.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, I just wondered in terms of, I think at the last meeting, we were talking about insurance. We didn't have all the insurance numbers. And so have we got an update on that?
Through you, Mayor, we have an unofficial update on that. They were able to confirm that it is likely going to be around the 5% mark as an increase. So looking at the levy impact only, that's approximately $15,000.
Any other
Okay,
questions?
no, that's it. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go back to page 60 then. Are any questions on page 60? Okay, not seeing any. Okay. Next item, project 2025 TSO2. Wilbert Line resurfacing. Any questions regarding that? Okay. Not seeing any. TSO3, Huron Street West resurfacing. Any questions regarding that? Deputy, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I brought it up maybe the last, at the last meeting about when we're paving our roads is making them a little bit wider. If I could get maybe some excuse me, some comments on that, that would be great. Thank you.
Mr. Timmermans, you want to take that?
Yep, through you, Mayor Finch. You looking for numbers or if it can happen?
Go ahead, Deputy.
I guess what I'm kind of looking for right now is are our roads set up? I understand we have shoulders there, we have gravel on the shoulders. But is it possible to widen that pavement a little more? I guess is what I'm looking for, because right now what I see is a lot of the farm equipment's getting wider and wider all the time. So now they're running half on the pavement and half on the shoulder, gravel shoulder. What's happening is that's splitting it off. So if the shoulder, or sorry, if the pavement was a little wider, I think it would help, but that's not my thing. So if I could get that answer, that'd be great.
And industry standard, I guess, is what we're looking at. What's this, your comment?
21 to 22 is the industry standard for a rule setting road. It can definitely be something looked at to widen the pavement. 6 inches isn't a lot on each side, so a foot in total doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're actually driving it, it does make a huge difference. And I believe for these two projects, that is something that could be possible. I know Huron Street for sure, definitely possible to do that. There's a wide enough area there. Corbett, I believe we probably could also be able to stretch that a little further too.
Okay, Councillor O, go ahead.
Yeah, just wondering, on those, you're basically, putting asphalt on asphalt. So if you were to make it wider, you'd have to start with a different base for the wider area.
Through you, Mayor Finch. No, not necessarily, because the shoulder is all gravel there down when the road was built. So what happens is we would go out and cut an edge along the side of the road, and then the asphalt would just be thicker on that outside edge. So when they would be doing the padding, they're able to stick that out just a little bit further to get that extra pavement. The biggest challenge is do we have enough room on the outside, on the ditch side? That is the challenge. Because then you're reshaping, you're redoing a lot of the roadside itself.
Yes, and that could get very costly if we do all the roads. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, that definitely would, because then drainage could be affected. There's a number of things, right? With costs, but I agree, the equipment isn't getting any smaller, and if some of it is half on, half off, there's challenges to the outside of the paving. Sure.
Okay, thank you. Any other follow-up on that? Councillor Vaughn?
Yeah, when we're looking at this Huron Street West resurfacing, there's a picture on this. Is that actually Huron Street, a picture of Huron Street? Okay, so I noted farther into our capital projects, there's also an attachment to be able to smooth out gravel on alongside of roads. Okay, and so looking at this particular picture and looking at the roadway and where it's alligated and so forth, it doesn't really look like there's gravel on the side of this particular road that would make it level with the asphalt surface. And so my question, which I'm leading up to, is does it help increase the life of our asphalt roads and potentially facilitate bigger farm equipment if we do more on the graveling of shoulders?
To your Mayor Finch, that's a great comment. And we need to get more proactive on the shoulder maintenance. Right now, what we do is we try and retrieve it. So we use a disc and bring it up, and then it helps kind of get rid of some of the weeds also and keep the grass down. But that gets deplenished after a while. And then we're always trying to fight to keep that up to the edge of the asphalt. So now we're at the point where we need to be applying shoulder gravel, not to every road, but starting a program to get them up. And then, yes, it does help with the large equipment on the side of the road. Also traffic, if you drop off, we have to try and keep that within a minimum maintenance standard also of that shoulder drop too.
And so does it also increase the life of our asphalt?
Through Mayor Finch, I would say yes, it does. It helps the edge of the asphalt stay intact.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on TS03? Not seeing any. Moving on to 2024 CFWD Dashwood Main Street Sidewalk. Any comments in regards to that? Okay, not seeing any. TS04, page 67. Morrison line repairs to the Morrison, or the bridge there. Any questions? Counselor Vaughn, go ahead.
Yes, on this bridge, there is a comment that a load limit would likely need to be placed on this structure if the project were to be delayed beyond 2025. And I'm not suggesting that it should be delayed, but I'm just wondering, what does that mean? Is that a year-round load restriction, a seasonal one, as we have on some of our roads? What does that mean?
Through you, Mayor Finch, that would be year round until that project would be completed.
And because you've said both of those things, I'm just wondering, reduction, a load limit to what?
I believe that brings it to 10 ton per axle.
And right now it's how much? Like, what's the difference?
Right now it's legal weight limit.
There's
No restrictions
no
on it as of
restriction
right.
whatsoever.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
And we have to remember too, under the Highway Traffic Act, farm equipment is exempt from weights. If it's pulled by a infant husbandry, right, like a tractor or what have you. So it could be more weight than the 10 tons. Is that correct? Shane? Yeah. Any, Counselor Oak?
Thank you, Mayor. Shane, this is a project that got delayed from last year because we uncovered further deterioration, or it was a larger project than first believed. Is that correct?
Through Mayor Finch, correct. And also with the reconstruction project on Main, Morrison is kind of used as a back road access around the construction site. So
Okay, thank you. Nothing further on that item. TS04, we'll move on to TS05. Any questions? Okay. Thank you. TSO, oh, Counselor Oak, go ahead.
Yeah, just and I noted I happened to be going down McTaggart when you were doing the shoulder side of it this year, and so I noted that it says that there's no longer an opportunity by using a local paving company's equipment. What has changed there?
to your Mayor Finch. So generally the paver that we've had in the past had an old machine that kind of let the municipality use. They no longer have that, and we shouldn't be relying just on that. So yeah, I went and sourced this one this year and got lucky being able to have it because it's generally not in stock. So yeah.
And this provides a more uniform display of the gravel, correct?
Dreamer, correct.
And less labor, lots less labor intensive, right? Right.
This one compared to what was used previously, yes.
Sorry, Deputy, and then Counselor Vaughn.
Yes, thank you. I agree with this machine. We're getting more and more pavement all the time, and we need to keep our shoulders up so that it does help the pavement itself. So I fully agree with this. Thank you.
Counselor Vaughn.
Yes, I'm leaning in that direction as well. I think that would be good if that's a good maintenance practice. And so keeping that in mind, if we were to go ahead with this equipment, would we also be thinking about doing more of this kind of work than we currently do today? And if so, that would mean more gravel, and mightn't that mean something for operational costs as well?
Through you, Mayor Finch, yes, it would be used for the new pavement that we're putting down. And then also starting a program to replenish other roads that need more shoulder gravel. That would be done through the operating budget.
And assuming, again, we go ahead with this, have we made allowances in our gravel purchase for 2025 year to like expand the program or do more, as you say?
Through Mayor Finch, not in 2025 budget. Extra gravel for the paved. No, there hasn't been additional funds added for that.
Counselor Vaughn, follow up?
Yes, I'm just wondering if maybe we shouldn't be thinking about that if we're getting the new piece of equipment. I have no idea how long it would take to get this equipment. That's the other aspect and yeah, so I'm just wondering if it's 2025 or if we're thinking of going that way directionally, is that a 2026 budget item?
Shane?
Through Mayor Finch, there is still, there's enough in the operating budget to be able to do some roads. We're not going to be able to do everything in 1 year anyways, but there's enough in the operating budget to go out and be able to start working away. Probably 3 to 4 blocks, which doesn't sound like a lot, but some of these blocks take a lot of gravel, a lot more than what you think. So it's like all of a sudden you're going and it's like, oh, that chewed up a lot more gravel. Then in 2026, that could be something like, hey, we need to up this. And I think that would be a great idea to be able to do that. But I think for 2025, there's definitely allowance in the operating budget to be able to definitely get some of it done.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Counselor Vaughn, follow
No,
up?
that's
Okay.
good. Thank
Counselor
you.
Rowe? Counselor Rowe, you had a comment?
Yeah, so I agree. We're already doing the paved roads that we're currently new paving. And so there would be limited, there's a significant stockpile of gravel today at the yard. So I think we could probably get away with it for 2025 with what I see that's still there, and maybe with some creative backhauling with some trucks and stuff like that, there might be some opportunity to save some money on delivery of gravel as opposed to our trucks running the road to pick it up. So so there might be some opportunities that way too. So yep, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions on TSO 5? If not, moving on to TSO 6. Not seeing any. Oh, Counselor Rowe, go ahead. Sir.
Yeah, thanks. Just noted that this truck isn't 10 years at this point in time. Just wondering, it will be next year, I guess sometime next year, but just wondering some comments on the state of the truck itself.
Shane?
Through Mayor Finch. So the state of this truck is, it's a headache. It's been somewhat of a lemon since I've been here. And we regularly use that one throughout the winter. It also has a little bit of a route, like a snow plow route, and is set up for a V plow or a 2-way plow out front and a sander salter to also do some parking lots. This one here's been consistently in and out of the shop and would actually, it's the top one in and out of the shop.
Counselor Oak?
Yeah, no, that's good. And just a question, I noted that it's we're putting this one against the levy versus the transportation capital reserve. Just wondering why we're most of the other projects are all against the transportation capital reserve. Just wondering why this one's going against the levy.
Who'd like to take that? Aaron, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Finch. Initially, when we try to start the budget, we do start with the rule of only 25% of the amount from the previous year that's gone into the reserve to come out. So already transportation has gone up well above that themselves to try to go through their budget. So this was the one item that they didn't move off the levy into there. So
Okay, Deputy, go ahead.
Thank you. When you purchase this truck, is that get a new box also? Or new flatbed or?
Through Mayor Finch, yes, it would be new box, new chassis.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving right along. TWS, so, sorry, Ted, go ahead.
And just to follow up on that, and it looks like a front plow attachment as well on this one.
Through Mayor Finch, yeah, it's a quick attach onto a Boss.
Great, thank you. So if we're done with that, we'll move on to our TWS 01. Any questions? I'm sure there will be, maybe. Okay, not seeing any. Well, TWS 02. Councilor Oak.
Yeah, and I guess probably answered my question, Aaron, already from the last question I had, but both of these projects are using the tax levy versus the transportation capital reserve. And I guess I just wondered, when I look at the reserve number of over $6 million in the transportation capital reserve projected for the end of December, just seems like a big number, and wondering why we're not using that. I guess that 25%, is that a reserve policy that we have, or that's just something that is sort of off the record type of analysis?
Through you, Mayor Finch, I believe it's the general rule that we try to follow and then adapt as needed.
Okay. Anything further on TWS 02? Not seeing any. 2024 carry forward on Dasha streetlights. On to item street lighting here in Park, page 81. Councilor Oak.
Just on the Huron Park one, I guess if the developer doesn't make their contribution, we're not moving ahead with the project. Is that sort of the understanding?
Mr. Giverson.
Yes, good evening. Through you, Mayor Finch, that is correct. The driver for the project is the installation of a sidewalk along airport line. So that's also a requirement under the subdivision agreement. So if it doesn't proceed, then there isn't the need for street lighting along the entire length of airport line.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Page 81. Okay. Next item. Sorry. Meter replacement program, page 85. Project 25 W01. Next page, SCADA upgrades, sorry, W02. Councillor Vaughn, go ahead.
Yes, just wondering if before we get too far down through all the various water projects, I was just taking a look at the amounts of money that we're looking to take from the reserve for all of the water projects for next year. And looking at that, not only in the water project grouping, but also the multi-projects, if you will, because there's water and there's sewer elements in both of those. And we don't have that much money projected for December 31st, 24. We have about $1.5 million, $1.6 million in our water reserves today for December 31st projected. And we have about 3.4 million in projects where water or where monies are coming from reserve. So I'm just wondering how that works.
Who would like to take that? Aaron, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Finch. What's not included in the projection for 2024 is the amounts that are transferred into the reserve in 2025 through the transfer to reserve that we do. So another 2.3 million through 2025 will be transferred into the reserve. And then there will be enough to cover all of the projects. And yes, it will almost completely deplete the reserve, but there is enough funding in there to cover the projects.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And did you say 2.5 or 2.25 million?
2.3.
2.3, said neither of those. Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Oak.
And that was the water one? How about the sewer reserve? What
So
gets transferred?
it's 2.27 million, so 2,278,000 gets transferred for sewer.
Thank you. Okay, we're at W2, so we'll go to W3. Parking lot on Nelson Street. Councillor Oak.
Yeah, just wondering, I guess, I'm not sure if I'm in support of this project or not, just because I'm not sure what we want to do with this site in the next few years. But just my thought that down the road we had talked about, you know, there might be some discussions about merging of buildings or different things, and so not sure that I'm looking forward to spending $100,000 on paving of a property that might not be part of the package down the road. Just my comments.
Deputy.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with Councillor Oak. I think this is something that we need to have a bigger discussion on what's going to happen the next 3, 4, 5 years as far as moving everything to one building or one location. So I think I'm with Councillor Oak. I think I'd like to hold this off for and see what happens with the discussions of that. Thank you.
Any other questions at all? Councillor Vaughn.
Yes, so beyond that, and deferring to a different discussion, I'm also wondering why this amount of money, if we were to go ahead, would be against the water capital replacement reserve. Like, this isn't about water to me. This is about a facility and a parking lot and a sidewalk. I don't see why our water users would be paying for an upgrade to a facility.
Comments from staff? Alyssa, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Finch, it is proposed as a water replacement reserve project as the building is host to our water operations center. Yes, it is also our sewer operations center, but it is both water and sewer operations, and all maintenance is split between water and sewer operations for that building.
Okay, thank you. And we have to always be mindful, there's no plan at this point to do anything with the buildings at all, so that's the discussion here. That's why it's before us, so. Okay, it could be years down the road, it might be a year, we don't know. So, any other comments at all? Okay, if there's nothing further. Move on to the next item then, W04. Any comments on the engineering? Seeing any, Councillor Oak, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to get a little bit of clarification on this looping of the systems, and just because obviously there's nobody lives on this road, just wondering what the long-term reason for this, this section?
Alyssa, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Finch, the long-term reason is ideally for Lake Huron water supply outages. It also supports emergency situations where we need to feed through there. Currently, our system is split right there. One pressure zone operates separately from the other, and during shutdowns or emergency conditions, we're not able to interfeed those pressure zones. So we have to rely on our neighbors such as Lambton Shores to feed us or bulk water tankers to provide water to our customers.
Thank you for your answer. Any other comments? Counselor Vaughn and then Deputy.
Yes, I also was not really sure why we were presenting this kind of a project. I did note that this is a project that's recommended in our 2024 water and wastewater master plan, of which we haven't been able to see yet. So there is very little context in terms of, from my liking, for why we need this project. It is $610,000. We already have a lot of redundancy, a lot of pipes in the ground. There's also constant pressure to increase water and sewer rates out to our users. And so I wouldn't be prepared to go ahead with this very limited information about why this was considered to be a justifiable project for next year.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Deputy, go ahead.
Thank you. And I tend to agree. Wondering if maybe we defer this to the next year and then see what happens. And once we get the information back that Councillor Vaughn was discussing or talking about.
Okay. Did you want to make a deferral at this point then, Madam Clerk? Just looking for process on that.
Through the mayor, perhaps, I think there's two items here that might already be on this list. Perhaps if we finish, then we can have just one resolution.
Very well. Okay. Any other comments on that then? Moving on to W05. Or water main upgrade. Any comments? Next item W06. Water main upgrade. Okay. Page 95. The Grand Bend line water main upgrade, feed line to Grand Bend Airport. W06. Go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. W06, it's proposing using the DC charges as a funding source, and just wondering where that money's coming out of DC, because I don't see which one it would come out of if this is a water project. There's not that much there's not that many DC dollars in the reserve, so just wondering where it would come out of.
Through you, Mayor Finch, there is a process for if it's not there, if the funding isn't there in DCs, there is a process that's followed for how you borrow from other reserves to cover as long as it's in the plan, the development charges plan originally, then it can come out, and there's a whole process for how that's done.
Out of the other DC reserves. Thanks.
Correct, and then interest, and it gets charged back and tracked.
Okay, thank you. And that was W06. And the next project will be carry forward Dashwood Main Street water main replacement, joint with Huron County. Next item, Thames Road West Main water main replacement. Outage extra railway to Main Street, joint with Huron County. Councilor Oak.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I noted this is the Thames Road one. I noted in the 10-year capital forecast, it's got the 750,000 in 2026, but the details are actually saying it's in 2027. So I'm just wondering which one is the project for?
Go ahead, Alyssa.
Through you, Mayor Finch, that was a mistake on our behalf. It should be a 2026 project. Now we are working with the County of Huron, and that's currently the estimate is 2026 construction schedule.
Great, thank you for that. Any other comments? Moving along, we're into the Exeter Sewage Lagoon and Sand Filter Rehabilitation Project SO1. Permits, we'll go on to SO2. Oh, Councillor Vaughn, go ahead.
Yes, I just had a question. This looks like an awfully familiar project, this SO1. So is this not one that we've kind of had at the table and talked about for quite a few years at this point?
No. Who would like to take that?
Through you, Mayor Finch, we did complete the engineering for it this year, this calendar year, 2024.
Okay,
The reason I asked that question is I had thought we had deferred this a couple of times in favor of other projects, and I just wondered if it was finally coming on the table. And so I know Alyssa hasn't been with us all of those years, and I'm wondering if perhaps if Don's still online, if he might be able to advise.
Mr. Giverson, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mayor Finch. Councillor Vaughn is correct. In previous years, there has been investigations and studies carried out on the sand filters, and the project was deferred because we did receive relief on our updated ECA, or environmental compliance approval, for operating the sewage lagoon, which did help. And it was on the basis that the municipality was committing to doing these projects, but the ministry just gave us a little more time. Also, we were able to do better maintenance with tilling the top of the sand filters, which helps to with keeping down the vegetation. So yes, we have tried to extend this, and it has been deferred, but now is the time to start doing this work. And this capital budget is for the first 2 filter beds. There are 4 in total. So there would be another pair of them proposed for the following budget year.
Thank you, Mr. Giverson. Follow up? No, thank you. Okay, that was SO1. Moving on to SO2. Comments? Seeing any? Oh, Deputy, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the bypasses here. Like, is that an issue with our pipes in the ground that water's getting in there? Or is there illegal hookups going into our sewage pipes? Maybe if I could get an explanation on that. Thank you.
Alyssa, do you want to take that?
Through you, Mayor Finch, it is a inflow and infiltration problem for the capital projects for SO4. We do have a inflow and infiltration reduction program proposed. So in conjunction with this equalization tank, we are hoping to identify the illegal connections and possible defects in the pipe in the ground, repair those, while then also installing an equalization tank to diminish or reduce bypasses.
Thank you. Follow up?
Yeah, and I guess that was my question. Maybe we need to stop the water from coming in so we don't have as many problems that way. And I thank you for that.
Great, thank you, Councillor Oak.
Thank you. And that was going to be one of my questions for SO4 was, do we find many illegal connections when we're ripping things up? What is the track record?
Go ahead, Elsa. Oh, Mr. Giverson, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mayor Finch. It is very surprising the number of illegal connections that we do find in the reconstruction projects, where people have connected sump pumps to the sanitary sewage system is the most common one that's found. But this entire issue, this is a large issue, and it's not easily solved, and it will not be solved overnight. So it's a very long-term prospect to reduce your inflow and infiltration. And the illegal connections are very difficult to find, but we do find them.
Thank you for that. Councillor Vaughn.
Yes, I'm just wondering if we have a particular area within South Huron that we're planning on sort of targeting first. Like, do we have a prioritization list of where we think I&I reduction program is most merited?
Mr. Garberson, comment?
Through you, Mayor Finch, the top prospect is Exeter, and there are areas of Exeter that are very prone to very high inflow and infiltration. So that will be our first priority, is to tackle areas in Exeter. But the problem is persistent even in kind of newer areas like Huron Park, Centralia, and Crediton.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, also, my understanding of this, and I stand to be potentially corrected here, is that also if we do have this infiltration situation, that it also can contribute to the actual flows. And when I'm speaking about flows, I'm thinking about the Gren Bend sewage treatment area, because I do see some flows moving in certain areas in that end, like in the Gren Bend sewage treatment, that aren't really readily explainable. It's not like their growth areas we aren't having, at least not yet, the same kind of expansion that Gren Bend is having. Yet we seem to be watching flows go up. So I'm just wondering about that area of South Huron as well.
Mr. Garberson?
Through you, Mayor Finch, yes, there are a couple of properties that are well known to us, the staff, that have very high I&I. And as part of this program, will also be to address those specific properties. When they are private property issues, it presents a lot more challenges for the municipality. If there are issues within our own system, within our control, like on the within the municipal road allowances, it is something that it's easier for us to address. But it's a massive problem. But in answer to your question, Councillor Vaughn, about the Gren Bend properties, yes, we are aware, and they will be addressed as part of this overall program, because they do affect, they use up capacity in collection systems, in pipes, pump stations, and treatment plants.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If nothing further on O2, we'll go to SO3, Exeter Trunk Sewer Rehabilitation. Comments? Okay, moving on to SO4, I&I reduction program. We discussed that briefly. Further, we'll carry forward Thames Road West Sewer Replacement on page 109. Any discussions on that? Seeing any? So, Councillor Oak, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question. This is a sewer project, but we're using the water capital replacement reserve. It can just wonder why.
Alyssa, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Finch, it should be the sewer capital replacement reserve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing further on that. Go to page 111. Huron Park Sewage Pumping Station Upgrade. Carryover project. Working on that, we'll Project 25S05, placing truck 135. Okay. Turn it over to staff. No questions on that? Council, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Just wondering, as with our fleet policy that we've got, this isn't it's right on the 10-year cycle. Is there any thought of relocating this truck, or what is the plan with a couple of these trucks that we've had tonight? So
Through you, Mayor Finch, this truck is actually proposed to be relocated to the Recreation Department.
Thank you. Okay, anything further?
sorry, I missed that, or I didn't see that. Thank you.
Deputy, go ahead.
So is there a value put on this truck when it's sent over to the recreation? Simple reason, if it's worth, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000, then to me, that should be not coming out of the water department. That should be coming out of the recreation department. Thank you.
Aaron?
Through you, Mayor Finch. Yes, when we transfer vehicles between departments, they get transferred at their net book value. But being that this vehicle will be 10 years old, it will have a value of 0 because we transfer it we amortize over 10 years. So at the end of that, it'll have 0 value and will be transferred over at that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Councillor Vaughn.
Yes, I have another question. It doesn't relate to capital spending for next year, but it's on the 10-year plan on our kind of extended sheets. There is a project called the Oakwood SPS Gravity Connection slated for 2029, which is a few years out. I'm just wondering what particular pumping station this actually is, because, well, Oakwood, lots of things are called Oakwood in the west end of the city or west end of the municipality. And I know there's a private pumping station at Oakwood Inn, and then there's that municipally owned one in next to the Lynx. So I'm just wondering what this is actually referring to.
Melissa, do you want to take that?
Through you, Mayor Finch, that is referring to the municipally owned Oakwood SPS. And that is as part of the draft 2024 master plan recommendation.
Okay. And I know we have a meeting coming up soon, November 19th, which is going to be talking about that end of the municipality. And so this is talking about, or just in its very limited description, gravity connection. Is this also contemplating, like, is this a repair, or is this potentially moving it to a trunk line scenario as opposed to having a pumping station? Yeah.
Maybe refer to Mr. Giverson. Mr. Giverson, would you be able to provide comment?
Yes, through you, Mayor Finch. The plan moving forward, and this is very early in the forecast, but we wanted to capture this project because mechanical pumping stations or all the mechanical electrical instrumentation does have about a 15-year life. And eventually we'll need major work. So that pump station by the Oakwood Lynx condos, it's a municipal pumping station, and it will eventually come up that it will need significant work on the electrical mechanical components of the project. So in doing long range planning, we were planning for a connection to a trunk sewer. That's if the trunk sewer is built. We don't know all the details of that yet, but that's the plan, that we would have a gravity connection, eliminate a pump station, and not spend money to do future upgrades, which are going to come due here in the next few years.
Thank you. Counselor Vaughn, follow up?
No, thanks for that. I thought that might be what it is, a placeholder for a future thinking. So thank you for that comment.
Counselor Oak?
Just another item that's in the 10-year forecast is the landfill. And just wondering, we haven't had an update. We usually get one capital time where we are with stage 3 expansion, and I see there's 100,000 for 2026, and then an item for 2029. Each year that goes by, we're getting closer to being full, and just wondering how the process is going.
Mr. Giverson, would you take that?
Through you, Mayor Finch, yes, I'd be happy to take that question. So it's working through the challenges here, which one of our major challenges is the acquisition of the CAS zone. So we are still in discussions. There is still background work that's being done. We are plotting our way to an end, but we're not there yet. So it is still a work in progress. But I understand the concern about the timing, and as time goes by, and we've eaten up a lot of time to get here. But this is a very, very slow process to get there. But that's the challenge, is to acquire the CAS zone and have all the necessary documentation in place to do so. So that is where we're at. It's still a work in progress.
Thank you for that. Mr. Oak, go ahead.
Thanks, Don, for the update. I guess the question is it ABCA that's dragging their feet in this acquiring?
Mr. Giverson?
Through you, Mayor Finch, I would not point the fingers at anybody. There are delays all the way around. They are part of the discussion, a key part of the discussion. But no, it isn't a delay by the ABCA staff. We have had discussions with them. We will continue to have discussions. But our desire from the municipal staff is to work collaboratively with the Conservation Authority, and we hope that still continues. But if a resolution cannot be, or if we cannot come to a resolution, we will be reporting back to council. So no, I would not lay the blame at him. I do not play the blame game, and I don't intend to start now.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, not seeing any. Mr. Sue Carlson, did you want to? Oh, go ahead, Councilor.
Just thank you, Mayor. Just one street that wasn't on the list here, and I'm not sure in timeline, but I noted that Andrew Street from Sander to James, I guess it was Sanders to John is on there, but not until 2033. And I guess I'm just wondering, that section from Andrew or from Sanders to John is in pretty rough shape, and just wondering if it's going to last another 9 years. That's on the forecast here.
Mr. Giverson, comment?
Yes, through you, Mayor Finch. I'll answer on Shane's behalf. I'll take some of the heat off Shane. So that project is in the SOI report. It is in the priority list, and you are correct, Councillor Oak. It is out there a little ways, and yes, we are concerned that the surface is not going to hold up. But we're also trying to work with the ratings from the consultant. That section of road does have curb and gutter, so it has infrastructure that made it the rating a little bit lower, or I should say rated higher, so it's a little bit lower on the priority list. But the surface itself, the actual condition of the surface is not good. And it's something that we may have to advance that project or do something different if the surface isn't going to last. But the overall rating is based on all these other factors, which in some cases does end up, it doesn't look correct because of the condition of the surface, but all the other factors combined is why it ended up with the rating it did and a little bit further down the priority list.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Giverson. Any other comments? Okay, not seeing any.
Yeah, just, it wasn't, on the capital forecast or the capital that we talked about last meeting. The Dashwood Fire Station. The way it was being funded potentially was, or being proposed or being discussed was the debt funding and then fire capital replacement reserve. And I guess I just thought I'd have a discussion that it sound, we have more than the reserve of 1.4 in there. I think it's 1.5 that Aaron presented tonight. And I guess I just wanted to maybe have a discussion if this project goes forward that we don't deplete our fire reserves by using, down to the last $100,000 sort of thing, and whether there may be some other ways that we can look at, maybe working fund reserve or something to take a little bit out of there to leave a little bit in the fire reserve. So just wondering, maybe Aaron or Rebecca could maybe comment. I know that's being proposed later in the amenity fund some dollars there, but just wondering thoughts.
Mr. Sue Colson?
Through the mayor, this was for discussion at this point, because at this point, we don't even know the full costs of the proposed project, and there might even be opportunity for grants. So this was kind of a placeholder, and I fully expect when a report does come back, council will be able to move the funding around as you see fit.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? We welcome Mr. Neeb. How are you? Good. And Mr. Neeb, I may not see you if you have a question, so please state to say hello or whatever you need to say to catch my attention.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, if there's nothing further. Councilor Oak, you have something? No. Okay, Mr. Sue Colson?
Through the mayor, there were a couple of items that council had pulled at least to discuss further. One was project number 2025 W03, and that was replacement of 82 Nelson Street parking lot. And the next one was 2025 W04 South Road Water Main Extension, Corbett Line to Grand Bend Line.
Is there any discussion on that? Councilor Oak?
I'd like to defer those to the next year if possible. That would be my thought in listening to the discussion tonight.
Any further, so you're making a motion then, is that what you're saying?
That would be fine, yes.
Okay, so you want to prepare that to defer that?
That project's 2025 W03 replacement of 82 Nelson Street parking lot and 2025 W04 South Road Water Main Extension, Corbett Line to Grand Bend Line be deferred to 2026 budget discussions.
So moved by Councilor Oak. Is there a seconder, Councilor Deputy Mayor? Go ahead.
Thank you. We're talking about the engineering and the project. I know the project's already in the next year, but we're talking about the engineering part. we're deferring everything.
Counselor Oak.
Yes.
Thank you.
So moved by Counselor Oak, second by Deputy Mayor. Is there any discussion on that? To defer that? Okay, no discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor to defer? And that carries with 6. Thank you very much. Next item.
The next item is item 6.1, Stephen Arena and South Huron Rec Center requirements and costs to allow for assembly occupancy. This is a referral of resolution 287-2024.
Okay, so comments on that? Counselor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the report, Amanda, of what you know to date. I guess the question is, will we have any further concrete information or numbers prior to our next budget meeting, or what's your thoughts on that?
So through the mayor, so I can provide a bit of an update. So in the report, I indicated that we did have a meeting on site on Friday. I believe that was November 8th. Forgive me, I have a couple notes here. So there was representatives from an engineering company, an HVAC company, and a fire suppression system. So they basically were on site to discuss what it might look like to add HVAC to ensure proper ventilation at both locations, and also what it would look like to ensure the proper sprinkler systems are in place for this purpose. It was noted that these systems needed to be added to the entire building, so not just above the arena pad, which was a consideration. So for example, at Stephen Arena, they did indicate a sprinkler system would be required in the attic space, for example, because it was deemed a combustible area. A lot of the discussion, and it was highlighted in the report ahead of time, centered around the issue of putting additional weight on the trusses or the roof systems. The engineer expressed concerns prior to the meeting, as well as at the meeting, in particular to Stephen Arena, when they're using the trusses to put the ductwork in or the pipes in. So yeah, that was Stephen Arena. He indicated there was no immediate concerns if they had to put or tie into the purlins at the South Huron Recreation Center. There's no immediate concerns right now, but he did say moving forward, it was strongly suggested to complete a detailed review of both buildings, as well as a detailed electrical, mechanical, and structural engineering drawing of both buildings. So those reps on site, they're working on high level pricing. I have a couple prices with me tonight. But in order to get not an exact cost, but a more inline cost, those drawings are required, as well as an inspection and analysis on the roof systems. To date, we have very high level costs in regards to the HVAC part of meeting the requirements of assembly of occupancy. So for Stephen Arena, as it would stand right now, it's being quoted at an approximate price of $525,000. And for the South Huron Recreation Center, it's being quoted for the HVAC portion, $570,000. There was discussion on site about tying the sprinkler system, which we don't have a price for right now, into a fire panel, making sure all that is up to code as well. We did have an approximate price to install new fire panels at about $250,000. So if we wanted to move forward and get a better sense of costs from the HVAC rep, as well as the sprinkler rep, we would need those drawings, need that assessment done. The other thing to note was we would also have to engage an architect to review the exits, travel distances, and occupant load. So yes, we had HVAC and sprinkler representation on site, but there's other costs associated with doing this too. So that's kind of my update to date.
Okay, thank you. Questions? No questions at all at this time? Okay, thank you. Ms. Basula Collison. Okay, go ahead. Oh, Counselor Vaughn, go ahead.
Yeah, so to reflect back on Counselor Oak's question, which was, will we have any figures in time for this budget? Sounds like it kind of goes beyond figures for this budget. Especially when we're talking about potentially architects, engineers, roof trusses, HVAC, the air conditioning. Yeah, so it sounds rather extensive. But I do appreciate the high level quotes you've gotten from the parties so far. My question is really, okay, so where do we go from here? What do we do from here? Because I do understand from some of the discussions that we've had so far around the council table that we have a fire plan for the South Huron Rec Center that allows us to continue to have some of the charity events and other events that we've had in the arena in the off season. But we don't seem to have that same kind of fire plan for Stephen Arena. And so the question is, getting right back to what is the year-round use of Stephen Arena? And are we going to, as a council, decide that we're going to not pursue year-round, or that we are going to pursue year-round? I don't think it's going to fit into the budget schedule for let's get an answer to that, but I think we need to get an answer. So I guess what I'm asking the CIO, is there a plan for us to put together a report beyond the verbal report, which I appreciate, that talks about what we're probably going to need to do if we want to use this Stephen Arena facility in particular for a year-round use, and what it'll take to get there, because that's what the motion was all about in the first place. And I'd like to see a plan for us to get to the bottom of this motion.
Councilor.
Yeah, thank you. And I think also part of the report that maybe would come back would be to include all the because there's some confusion, all the sporting activities that can be allowed at Stephen and South Huron Rec Center. Because even in the report, it doesn't potentially talk about things like there was confusion on pickleball or tennis and all those kind of things that weren't where our consultant that had was having some challenges understanding that. So in my mind, if it's recreation, it should be allowed there, but I'd like to know that in some sort of a report that comes back to us for sure. Because thank you for the examples that you put in the report, but just wondering if there's any sporting limitations for either facility.
Okay, thank you. Deputy, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the information. Helps me a lot. I think this is over and above this budget for this year for sure. I think we need to get a report back from staff to figure out what we can and can't do at both arenas, and then council will take it from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much, Amanda. Turn to staff again.
The mayor, that South Huron Council received staff report CSD 12/2024 assembly occupancy follow-up report for information.
And a mover, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. Next item, please. 6.2.
This next item is a potential pedestrian crossover on Main Street near downtown Exeter Parkette. A referral resolution 383/2024.
And any comments? Councillor Oak, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I guess it's coming in the next section, but when the wind turbine amenity special purpose committee met, there was a recommendation subject to the project moving forward to help fund some of the project. So just wanted to make that known for this section as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's 6.2 that we're talking about, and that is under 6.3. Is there any further discussion on 6.2? Okay, not seeing, there's no resolution in that, so we'll move to 6.3, please. Any discussion on 6.3?
6.3.
I believe so. There's no further discussion on 6.2. Go ahead, Councillor Vaughn.
Yeah, which one are we on? Are we on 6.2? Are we on the pedestrian crosswalk?
We're on 6.2. If you have questions, if you have nothing, we can move on to 6.3, where this crosswalk is mentioned.
Okay,
That's
so,
what Councillor
yeah.
was talking about too.
So yes, I have a question about the crosswalk.
Go ahead.
Because we didn't get a capital sheet in our budget for the crosswalk. It doesn't look like it's being proposed by staff. I'm not really too sure if it can be proposed by staff, like what would be involved.
Ms. Masuda Carlson, comment?
Through the mayor, council could pass a resolution adding this project into the draft budget for consideration.
Okay, so we think from at a staff level that we know enough to go to proceed with this.
Councillor Oak, or sorry. Mr. Timmermans, come on down, please.
Through Mayor Finch, yes, there's enough information to proceed. Now, we still have fun that we have to get total authorization and sign off from the MTO, which can take time, but sometimes it is fast. So that would be one factor, but other than that, there's enough information right now.
Councillor Oak.
So just to clarify, based on the report that was given to us, it's roughly around 70,000 to do the project. Is that still the dollar amount you're thinking, Shane?
Through Mayor Finch, correct.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Let's see, Councillor Vaughn.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, well, I would like to make a motion to include this project in the 2024 budget and move forward with MTO approvals.
2025 budget?
2025, sorry.
Oh, fine. Any other comments? So you're making a motion to do that? Very well. Do you want to prepare that motion, please?
That the potential pedestrian crossover on Main Street near downtown Exeter Parquet be included as a project in the 2025 draft budget.
So moved, Councillor Vaughn.
So moved.
Is there a seconder for that, please? Councillor Neeb, thank you very much. Any further discussion? Call a question, all in favor? And that carries a 7. Thank you. Very well. And we'll move on to 6.3 now. Mr. Carlson.
Item 6.3 is a wind turbine amenity special purpose committee resolution. Recommendation is that South Huron Council approve the November 1st, 2024 wind turbine amenity special purpose committee recommendation as follows. That $35,000 be committed to the Exeter downtown crossover and $265,000 be committed to the Dashwood Fire Station replacement from the amenity fee wind turbine community funding reserve, should these projects be approved by council.
And a mover, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Councillor Dietrich, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there any money left in that account then, or
Would be,
is it used up there?
Ms. Moore can advise when she's ready there.
Through you, Mayor Finch, the guidelines for that is that we only commit what is in the account as of the year before. So what they've put through is committing the funds available to December 31st, 2023. And I believe it was leaving a small amount in there as well.
Do you have the, Councillor?
From what I remember, is around 100,000, I think, including the interest from this year.
Just ask, Ms. Moore to prepare for that. Councillor Deitch, you have a comment?
So is there any other projects that you're thinking about?
Ms. Paulson, would you be aware of anything?
There was quite a bit of discussion, and the minutes will be coming forward to the next council meeting. There were the few different projects that the committee had discussed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor.
The minutes are coming for next Monday's council meeting.
That's right, for the November 18th.
So in time to discuss before the next budget meeting.
That is correct.
Are you able to find it, Aaron? No? Okay. Perhaps we can, are you okay if we don't get that information right now, or do you want that information later? Okay, so that's fine. We can move along.
We can bring it back and have it available for our next meeting on Monday, if that works. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Just in the interest of time, that's all. Thanks, Aaron. I don't want to rush you on that. Any other comments then at this point? And so we have, where are we at? Cecile Carlson?
The recommendation has been read. Deputy Mayor Dietrich and Councillor Oak seconded.
Okay, is there any further discussion on that? Councillor Vaughn, is that your hand up or just no? Okay, and if there's no further discussion, we have a mover and a seconder. We'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. Number 7, please. Next steps.
To the mayor, at this point, there are still a few outstanding items that we haven't got the information from. There's the MPAC, there's the growth. Upper Thames, I know Aaron mentioned that. We've only got the draft only. We haven't really received it yet. We've just received it in the minutes for the last meeting. Police Services Board, I know that they're still working on their budget, as well as benefits. And we've also received some high level information from Kirkton Woodham Community Center, as well as Pool. We haven't received any final numbers. We're fairly close, but there are still some outstanding information at this point.
Councillor Vaughn?
Yes, and just to add to your list, I think I heard insurance, a possible 15,000 affecting operating, I guess.
Okay, Councillor Oak.
I guess the more I think about it, the increase in the OPP of over 330,000 this year. I know that there's some things that got deferred, some capital items that got deferred into next year that, for example, the sidewalk, it got deferred last year too, and it got pushed again for next, based on, my thought is, hear me out, is Aaron had put in a report there, what 100,000 would, out of the stabilization reserve for the OPP. A year where it's a 17% increase, I think that's where a stabilization reserve should come into play, potentially. If we're looking at more of a normalized billing next year, or closer to normal, whatever that is anymore. So I'm just wondering whether we should be considering using 100,000 of that OPP reserve, the stabilization reserve, towards the increase of 330,000, and then taking a look at something else that might be on the radar to put as a project Just, we had a bit of a windfall with the OMPF as well, the 260,000 that we weren't necessarily expecting. So just thinking outside the box, whether we take 100 out of the reserve and put it towards another project, knowing that we have also the 260,000 that we got from OMPF to help with some levy items.
So would you be interested in making a motion? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, might as well. I'll make a motion of putting 100,000.
Thank you. And I'll just turn to our clerk. Are you able to capture that in a motion, please?
That $100,000 from the OPP stabilization reserve be applied towards the OPP budget line for the 2025 budget.
So moved, Counselor Oak.
Yes.
Is there a seconder for that? I'm not seeing, oh, Counselor Vaughn, seconds, discussion. Go ahead.
Yes, I did second it, so we could discuss. I understand exactly what Councillor Oak is saying. 17% increase is probably never a better year to actually look at your stabilization fund. But then I also, when I'm looking at that stabilization fund, I'm seeing that we haven't really been adding to it. We've been taking from it. Probably I'm thinking to make up for overbilling or billing that we owe them as a result of reconciliation. So we've talked about a number of things today. The two projects that we've deferred are really on the user base, user fee base. They're water projects, so they don't really matter in terms of the levy, which we're kind of talking about. So not sure I'm in agreement with your thinking on that piece. But I'm just wondering if it doesn't make sense to defer that kind of conversation to our next budget meeting when we're going to see the effect of the other motions that we've had today that do relate to the levy and the operating types of adjustments we're going to have to make to our budget, so we have a better picture of the actual where we're at impact wise on the urban and the rural. I'm just recommending we defer to next budget meeting.
Very well, so motion to defer. Is there a second to defer? Deputy Mayor seconds that, and there's no discussion on that. Is there all in favor to defer? And that's carried with 6. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Sue calls, or is anything else from any members of council under next steps? Okay, not seeing any at this point. Ms. Sue, go ahead, Deputy.
Thank you. I know it's maybe not the right time, but I think I would like to see more put into our rural roads, our gravel roads. We seem to have, and it's been going on for maybe 4 or 5 years. We keep cutting back on gravel, and not saying that the roads are that bad, but I can definitely see that we need to upgrade those roads. To help keep them in shape. So maybe I don't know whether we need a comment or thank you.
Mr. Timmermans, did you want to come down and comment at all? What's your thoughts on it?
Through Mayor Finch. Yes, it would be nice to be able to spend a little more on the rural gravel roads. I think this year here we're upping that amount, and hopefully we can get back up to that 30,000 ton threshold where we were previously. I think that will help out a great deal. Another thing that I have also been kind of looking into is drainage. So putting a drainage tile down each side of the road to help drain that road out. Sometimes what happened is they packed clay on the side of the roads. So when you pack clay in, now what you created was a bathtub where the moisture can just sit in and it doesn't help the road. So if we can get drainage on each side that runs down, then it just outlets, it helps the road air out. That is also another thing that we could eventually look into. That's not a, it's a cost, but not a huge cost.
Thank you. Deputy, comment? Drainage is the secret ingredient of good roads, I hear.
Well, it's an ingredient of everything. You ought to get rid of the water, but I agree 100%. So I don't know which way you want to go, but I think we need to start getting our roads in better shape because the equipment, like I said before, the equipment's getting heavier, so it just keeps going like this. So what it's his job, it's not mine. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Masul-Coles, you have a comment?
To the mayor, to clarify, are you looking for something for this budget year, or was it more of just a discussion?
Deputy, comment?
Thank you. No, I'm looking for this year. I look at our tax increase. I think we need to do it if we're going to do it this year, and it'll kind of keep everything moving along instead of having a huge increase in 1 year is my thoughts, but I don't know where the rest of council wants to go. Thank you.
Councillor Oak?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I agree with the deputy mayor. Also agree now 24 was as Shane alluded to another meeting, was a tough year for being so dry too. The dust suppressant didn't work like it maybe should, or didn't last as long. So I'm just, again, wondering, that's part of the maintaining of the roads, making sure that that we're using the appropriate amount if possible, but we can't control Mother Nature either. So.
Thank you. Deputy?
Thank you. I think I would like to see maybe our roads superintendent bring something back to our next meeting, or staff have a discussion, or maybe the CAO can help me out now. Thank you.
To the mayor, it would be helpful if we had a dollar amount, and then staff could bring back a proposal on what could fit in there, just to give us an idea of what amount we're looking at.
We'll go to Councillor Neep
proposal.
here first. Councillor Neep, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to cut in, but just this conversation's come up a few times in the last few years, and we have a transportation master plan, I believe, that covers, the potential, like the usage of all of our roads and also potential levels of service. And so, while I'm empathetic with, there may be some roads that maybe require more gravel or less, I think that's the lens maybe we should be looking at this in, is the level of service on the roads and the amount that they're used. And I don't want that to be lost in the conversation when we're discussing this as well with our asset management plan. I think this fits in with that too, when we're trying to determine the levels of service on some of our rural roads and urban roads. So I'm in favor of looking at it, but I think we just need to keep that in mind. So setting a certain dollar figure, I don't think is reasonable, considering should be based on levels of service.
Thank you, Councillor Oak.
Thank you, Mayor. And I agree with Councillor Neep, other than the fact that Shane did say that he would like to put additional on if possible. And so I'm thinking I'd sooner see staff come back with what is an acceptable level that you'd like to see for us to consider, as opposed to us, because I'm not sure what the acceptable level is. And so that's, I'll leave that into the experts' hands to come back and say, ideally we'd like to see another 2,000 tons put on the roads, or 1,000 tons or 5,000 tons. I don't know what that number is.
Shane, do you have a comment at all? I saw you reaching for the mic a moment ago. No? Okay, that's fine. Any other comments then? Deputy?
And I agree. I don't want to put that number on there. I think that's up to the experts to do that and bring it back to the next budget meeting and we either accept it or we don't. So I guess that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments then? There's no one wanting to make a motion in regards to that? Is that what you're looking at? Making a motion for that? Okay, thank you.
That staff bring a report back to the November 25th budget meeting regarding increased gravel for rural roads for council consideration.
So moved, Deputy. So moved. Seconded by Counselor Oak. Any further discussion on that? Not seeing any. Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with six, thank you. Sorry, seven. Thank you very much, Counselor Neeb. Anything further in next steps? Any other comments? Not seeing any. So, Ms. Carlson.
The South Huron Council hereby adjourns at 5:36 PM.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Counselor Neeb. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with seven. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to staff.